Hello and welcome to another episode of Down to Disness, a series where I pick a Disney animated movie and talk about its history and its impact on pop culture. This is a very special episode of Down to Disness because it is brought to you by Olympus. Olympus sent me their new EPL-10 camera to film this episode of Down to Disness, and as you can see, the quality is awesome for filming YouTube videos at home, but the camera also has a lot of features that I look forward to using once we are out of this self-quarantine phase, hopefully sooner rather than later. This camera shoots in 4K, it also has a 180-degree flip touchscreen, and you can send photos and videos directly to your phone using the camera's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth sharing. So thank you so much to Olympus for sponsoring this video, and you can learn more about the new EPL-10 camera in the description box below. For today's episode of Down to Disness, I will be discussing 2003's Finding Nemo. I really have done so few Pixar episodes of Down to Disness, and I'm excited to do another one today. Director Andrew Stanton started thinking about making a CGI film about an underwater world as early as 1992 when he visited Six Flags Marine World. Stanton was also inspired by memories of his own dentist office fish tank as a kid, where he would wonder how fish ended up in the tank and if they ever desired to escape back to the ocean, or escape back to the ocean. And finally, Stanton was inspired by his own experiences as a father. He said, "I became obsessed with this premise that fear can deny a good father from being one. With that revelation, all the pieces fell into place and we ended up with our story." Pre-production on Finding Nemo officially started in 1997 while Andrew Stanton was doing post-production on A Bug's Life. Stanton pitched his idea to John Lasseter in an hour-long elaborate presentation with voices and visual aids, and at the end of it, when he asked Lasseter for his thoughts, John Lasseter said, "You had me at fish." Although it's definitely still challenging to animate CGI water today, I think we take for granted how hard it must have been to do that in the early 2000s. Capturing the look and feel of the ocean was crucial to making Finding Nemo, and so obviously the animators had to do a lot of research and take research trips before they started work on the movie. They visited aquariums, Pixar installed their own 25-gallon fish tank for observation, they attended lectures by an ichthyologist, and a bunch of the animators were required to get scuba certified. Adam Summers was the professor from UC Irvine that gave them their fish lectures, and he taught them a lot about different fish shapes, colors, and behaviors, and he says that the Pixar animators were his best class ever, and that they were so obsessed with learning about fish that they started asking him questions that he didn't have answers to. At the end of all their hard work, the animators were able to do a demo animation sample of the water, and it ended up being way too realistic. They had to dial it back so that the ocean was believable, but still a caricature of itself. Now let's talk about the iconic characters of Finding Nemo, because I think this film is unique in having truly an ensemble cast. You have Marlin, Dory, and Nemo as the main characters, obviously, but then you have so many side characters that give this movie so much humor and life. Crush, Squirt, the Tank Gang, Nemo's school friends, Mr. Ray, the School of Fish, the list goes on. There are so many talented voice actors that worked on Finding Nemo, but obviously the most notable is Ellen DeGeneres, who voices Dory. Andrew Stanton actually had Ellen in mind as the voice of Dory from the very beginning. There was one day where he was listening to the Ellen sitcom playing in the background of his home, and he heard Ellen doing a bit about changing her mind 5 different times in one line, and he thought that she would be the perfect voice for Dory. In the end, Ellen loved playing Dory so much that she jokes that she constantly harassed Pixar to make a sequel to Finding Nemo, which of course we know that they did with Finding Dory in 2016. Albert Brooks was the voice of Marlin, and interestingly enough, Stanton says that originally the movie was supposed to reveal the death of Marlin's wife Coral gradually throughout the film using flashbacks. Ultimately, they decided that it would work better to set up Marlin's paranoia early from the start to explain why he was so scared of Nemo exploring the big blue world. So they started the movie with Coral's death instead of slowly revealing it, but this flashback theory was later used in Finding Dory, where Dory has flashback memories of her family. Barry Humphries lent his voice to the great white shark Bruce, and if you didn't know, Bruce was named Bruce in Finding Nemo because the models that were used for the shark in Jaws were named Bruce. Little fun fact for you. And director Andrew Stanton actually did some voices for Finding Nemo himself, including Crush the sea turtle. He never meant to voice Crush, but he did the scratch vocals for the character, and they were received so well during test screenings that he just kept them. It is said that he recorded all of his dialogue for Crush while laying down on a couch in his office. And let's not forget that Stanton also voiced the seagulls. Another cool fact is that Crush's son Squirt was voiced by Nicholas Bird, who of course is the son son of another Pixar animator, Brad Bird. And although it was never mentioned in the film, it was revealed later that Crush, Squirt, and all the other sea turtles are migrating to Hawaii, and that the shell patterns for all the turtles were based on Hawaiian t-shirts. Making Finding Nemo was an undertaking, and not just with the characters and figuring out how to make them emote, because fish don't have eyebrows or articulated mouths. The animators, by the way, actually studied dogs' eyes in order to give these fish more emotional expressions. To create these characters, they came up with 3 different kinds of fish animation. There was the gummy type of fish, which includes Marlin and Nemo, who have a dense kind of body but a warmth to them. Then there was the velvety type of fish, which includes Dory, who kind of looks soft to the touch and very flexible. And finally, there's the metallic kind of fish, which included the school of fish that talk to Marlin and Dory. And these are your basic scaly, slimy, shiny fish. The animators actually created an entire new shading system for the jellyfish sequence in Finding Nemo called transblurrency, and this was to create a translucent but blurry effect, kind of like a frosted window. While working on water scenes, which was pretty much every scene in the movie, the animators went back and studied classic Disney films like Pinocchio, Little Mermaid, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and The Sword and the Stone. They also took a really good hard look at Bambi, because Bambi specifically has a lot of caricature type animals in a very obscured, blurry, beautiful background. Shout out to Tyrus Wong. Bambi also has characters that are very realistic in the way that they move, but with really animated faces, which is what they wanted to do with fish. They basically said that they were doing Bambi, but underwater. Technical director Orrin Jacobs said that Finding Nemo was way more technically advanced than any Pixar movies so far, because every single shot required some sort of simulation program to create some sort of simulated movement. There was way more going on in every single frame than in the previous 4 Pixar movies. Rendering one frame in Finding Nemo, which was 1/24th of a second, at that time could take up to 4 days. And I can't continue without at least briefly talking about the Finding Nemo score, which is actually probably my favorite thing about Finding Nemo. While Nemo is definitely high up on my ranking of Pixar films, it's not in my top 3, I don't think, but what gets me so hard is the score. The Finding Nemo score got me through college, honestly. I used to listen to the Finding Nemo score all the time when I was writing my senior thesis. It is so beautiful and emotional and calming. And if you haven't listened to it in a while, give it a listen. If you've never listened to it, give it a listen. And it was the first Pixar movie to not have Randy Newman as the composer. But hilariously, Thomas Newman, Randy Newman's cousin, was the composer for Finding Nemo. So we kept it in the family. I feel really lucky because I remember seeing Finding Nemo in theaters. I was in middle school and my school actually did a field trip for 7th graders to go see Finding Nemo in theaters, because although it is a cartoon about fish going on wacky adventures, it's also pretty educational. Although whales don't actually have uvulas, a lot of other elements in the movie are super educational for kids. Finding Nemo was hugely successful and holds a lot of records to this day. At the time, it was the first animated movie to surpass The Lion King as the highest grossing animated film of all time, and producer Don Hahn called Andrew Stanton to tell him that it was about time that someone beat Lion King. The demand for tropical fish exploded after Finding Nemo. So many people were purchasing clownfish and blue tangs, and unfortunately, many of those people were quite like Darla and not successful at taking care of their fish. So this is a quick PSA that if you're looking to adopt any animal, but namely a fish, make sure you do your research ahead of time and know what you're getting into. Amazingly, Finding Nemo was the first Disney animated movie to win Best Animated Picture at the Oscars. And I'm sure a lot of you are like, huh? The Best Animated category didn't exist at the Oscars until 2002. Previously, Treasure Planet, Monsters, Inc., and Lilo and Stitch were nominated for Best Animated Picture, and Brother Bear was later nominated as well, but Finding Nemo won. To this day, Finding Nemo holds the record for most DVDs sold at almost 40 million DVDs. It is still number 1. Still. It's not Frozen. It's still Finding Nemo. I have always loved Finding Nemo so much. I love Pixar movies in general, but Finding Nemo I always admired because it was a story that I couldn't personally relate to, about a overprotective father and, you know, a kid's desire to like get out there and see the world when he's told not to. But I still get emotional when I watch it, and that's what good movies should do. Not just good animated movies, but all good movies should make you feel stuff even if you can't personally relate to the story. And Finding Nemo has always been my number one example of a movie that successfully does that, at least to me. And just doing the research for this episode, I cannot believe how challenging producing this movie was and how great it looked when it came out and still looks to this day. It's a super impressive animated film. Before I finish, I think for every Pixar film that I do on Down to Disness, I should point out where its two big Pixar Easter eggs are. That would be A113 and the Pizza Planet truck. So the Pizza Planet truck in Finding Nemo can be seen when the tank gang is in their plastic baggies crossing the road to get to the ocean. You see the Pizza Planet truck drive by, and the letter number combo A113 can be seen in the dentist camera, model number A113. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Down to Disness. I was really excited to do another episode during self-quarantine, and I'm sure I will be doing at least a few more. Another huge thank you to Olympus for sponsoring this video and providing me the EPL-10 camera to film with. I love it so much, and I can't wait to take it to Disneyland someday. If you have any questions about the EPL-10 camera, be sure to leave it in a comment down below, along with your requests for what movie I should do next on Down to Disness. And until then, I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy and as happy as possible, and I can't wait to make another episode for you all very soon. Bye.